This is an absolute delight. It's so wonderful to be here with my new darling friend, Sara. How do you say your last name, dear?
Falugo.
Well, that's how I would have said it. Falugo.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's spelled.
Yes, just like it's spelled.
And Sara has agreed to talk with me about how Sara became Sara. So, in order to do that, I think we need to kind of go back to the first thing that comes to mind where you found yourself facing an insurmountable period in your life where you thought, I may not make it through this. And what happened when you were there that just was in your face? How did you handle it, and what have you learned?
Well, I would say the first time I felt some insurmountable situation is when I was pretty young, and just my childhood in general, but especially when I hit puberty. And my emotions started really
Right.
moving me. There was definitely this feeling of, I'm not going to make it out of here alive. I'm not
And
going to...
that's puberty.
Yeah.
Well, that's not
Right?
too far in.
That's not too far in.
Well,
But I would say that was significant for me because it was the first time that I really was forced to dig deep.
So when you were forced to dig deep, did that in any way teach you how to face it later on when you reached places like that?
It informed it.
Okay.
It informed it. I did a lot of deconstructing and exploding in my teenage years, and I was frustrated and angry, and I felt trapped, so I was very destructive with myself. And once I got out of the house, I immediately started working on myself. So it's been age 17 was the beginning, and it was Louise Hay was the first book.
Yeah.
I think she's informed the whole journey.
You can heal your life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us have dog-eared pages on that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now flash forward to, we talked before we started shooting about just this last year, 2019.
2019.
A year that we'd like to be done with.
It's been a big one. It has been a big one. It's been the biggest year of my life. I turned 45 this year. And, I had this really funny feeling on New Year's that I should just fasten my seatbelt because this year was going to be just going to go. And it did. I never could have imagined how painful it was going to be and how tumultuous it was going to be. It's November now, so we can talk about these things. Basically, I was still newly married. I hadn't even been married for 2 years. I had waited 40 years to find my partner. We were together for 2 years before we married, so we were together for less than 4 years total when our relationship just exploded. I left him January 12th, and it's been...
Well, and too, if I may share, you thought you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah.
You thought you did, and there may have been some signs that you went, nah, I'll just cut him some slack. And yet, when it all came down to it, the things that were there that eventually presented themselves were not anything you could be okay with.
Exactly.
And you had to make a choice that probably felt a lot like hell.
Yeah, it felt a lot like hell. I think what's really important just to say from the get-go is this is really not about my husband.
No.
Yeah? It's really not about him.
It's never about anybody else.
This is my journey. I've been digging deep for a long time. I've had a spiritual practice for many, many years now. My first big breakthrough was in 2004. That was my big heart-opening breakthrough. That was followed by my leaving the country, giving away everything I own, traveling for a while, only to go a year before I finally found a place of surrender.
Yeah.
And so this year's been another big surrender. That was my significant surrender. And it's very interesting because we've done lots of work and had lots of healing, lots of growth. I have a yoga studio that I love, a community that I love and adore. They're my family. I'd finally found my man. I was so thrilled. We were living on 2 continents. It was exciting. It was beautiful. It was fun. We were ready to open another studio in Berlin in Germany. And that came to a screeching halt in January. Yes, there were things that led up to it. It was devastating.
Yeah.
So this was really the most devastating year of my life. There were certainly times in the past where I felt like I can't take this, and where you open up the conversation, and I don't know if I'm going to make it through this, but this was devastating in a whole new way. It was kind of like my biggest all my biggest fears were right there in my face, and I was living through them. It was really hard to sleep. It was really hard to eat. It was really hard to teach. It was really hard to do anything. And there was this overwhelming feeling that, and understanding that I just had to go through this. You know, you and I were talking about this earlier, that I'd spent many years shifting from being a depressed person and someone who was kind of just swayed by her emotions and thoughts and just kind of went wherever the wind took me, like many human beings are, right? We believe happy thought, oh, I'm happy. Sad thought, oh, I'm sad. I learned about this years ago. Okay, I am not my thoughts. I'm not my emotions. This is how we observe our experience. I am that observing awareness behind all of this experience, right? So I'd done a lot of work.
Right.
Very committed to my asana practice, my physical yoga practice. So I can't read enough about just life and spirit and consciousness and how this all works and how it all fits together. I was really at this place where I felt things were good. Things were solid, and I had a few really sweet years. And then everything erupted. It was literally just sat in disbelief, and you had to believe it because you could feel it.
You could feel it. But hang on just a second, because you appear to be on a path of evolution and awakening, and you seem to be conscious. That's what draws me to this conversation with you. So when you say that you came through rough spots early on, and then you had those sweet years, I guess my question is, if someone like you gets to have a debilitating bad year, there must be a plan in the universe that is designed, tell me if I'm onto something here, that is designed to take someone of your caliber deeper than you could go with enough dharma or enough reading or enough, figuring it out on your own. You just have to be sliced open and be completely raw to get to the next level. Does that have to happen?
I think for many of us it has to happen. I think for many of us it has to happen. It's like we do have to be ripped apart. Like I've said this year, I said I've been ripped apart, I've been chopped up, I've been lit on fire, and then I've been run over.
You survived a plane wreck. Yeah. That's what you said when you first got here. You feel like a plane wreck crash survivor.
I feel like I've survived a plane crash. So now we're talking 11 months later. Yeah. I feel like someone who survived a plane crash. Yeah. And I could do anything. I'm literally in this space now where I feel really emboldened, really fired up. I have more energy flowing through my body, my consciousness, my heart than I've ever felt in all these years. But it took this being completely ripped apart and like kind of putting everything I believed in, everything I was attached to, everything that I identified with, all of it on the altar, and kind of just like, and I just say on the altar, right?
Yes, please.
It's a metaphor for just, I'm going to hold everything loosely. I'm kind of giving it to the divine. I'm giving it to that most intelligent, awake, aware, conscious aspect of my being to work with, yeah? And I'm not going to try to hold on to it with my head or even, hold on to it with my heart, yeah? My whole personal practice is very heart-centered, so heart is where I always go. But even not holding on to it with my heart, just letting everything, being like water and just setting it all down and then seeing where things want to land.
Well, this is beautiful. And speak to me, let's pretend I'm somebody who's never understood what an altar is or what water is. What does it mean to put, but I've held on to this belief forever and ever. You're telling me I can't have that belief?
I know. So like when I'm talking about my lifelines, right? I had to literally let go of my lifelines. So when you grow up in a lot of physical abuse, you grow up in a psychologically maybe unhealthy situation, yeah? And then you go on to be chronically depressed, yeah? And I don't think I'm that unusual with this, yeah? We've all got, there aren't many perfect homes out there, right? So we've all got these little things and challenges in life, but mine was pretty formidable, right? I was chronically depressed for years. I was trying to fix it with my head. It was only yoga and meditation and opening my heart that helped me break through that. And then I could really use all the tools. I'd read a lot of books, but they could only penetrate so much. Mm-hmm. I would read them, I'd resonate. They sounded really good, but I couldn't live them.
Yeah.
So after my heart opened in 2004, all of a sudden I would read something that was on my shelf that I'd read last year, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I get this. I can receive this now. And it was changing my life rapidly. And then I learned, okay, there's affirmations, but there's also charging up your affirmations, right? So it started with Louise Hay, and then it was like Abraham Hicks, right? You need to feel this, get in that vibration. It's not even so much about the words, it's getting in that vibration, right? I learned
it's not about the words. It's exactly about the feeling.
Yes.
But how do
getting
you
into that feeling space, aligning with it, right? So that was one of my lifelines. Meditation every morning, one of my lifelines. Yoga asana, one of my lifelines. Watching the mind, self-inquiry, all lifelines.
But that can even be a rabbit hole.
Yes, it can be a rabbit hole. And I think what happens is, and Eckhart Tolle is good about talking about this, you can be watching the mind and really be sincere on the journey, but what happens is the mind comes in, the ego kind of takes over that job, and the ego becomes the watcher
good,
now.
Sarah. That's good.
Yeah.
So how do you know when the ego's watching?
If it's invested at all in what it's watching.
There we go. If it's invested, this is me,
and this
it wants it to be a certain way. Is that part of the investment?
Yes.
Okay.
So if it's invested at all, if it's judging it as good, bad,
Judging
at all. And this leads back to putting things on the altar, right? So this is a metaphor for I'm going to put down all of my beliefs, thoughts, ideas, and just like set it down and feel into the depths of my being. I'm not just taking my life, setting it down, and walking away. This is not that. I'm not giving up. I'm actually giving in that I'm moving inward, and I want to find out what lies beneath that. Because I know in my head, I really like this picture that I painted. It's so pretty, and sure, God, I'd give it up, but please, it'd be nice if you don't. When I take the time to go within and just feel into that space before all of that appreciation, because appreciation is such a high vibration, right?
Yes, I agree.
We've learned appreciation is so important, but to even let that go. And I'm not saying don't be in appreciation. I'm saying in that moment where everything is being taken from you, and when you're going through it, you know you're going through it. No one needs to tell you.
Well, you feel adrift. It's completely adrift.
And it's different than rough patches where we need to, hey baby, just turn your head this way, look into the sunshine. Yeah. And maybe you need a week or so to shift your vibration, whatever. It could be a big thing. No, when you're going through that dark night of the soul, they don't call it dark night of the soul for nothing. It's dark.
Yeah, it is dark.
And it's long. And it's deep. And